All right, let's unpack this. We're on the cusp of a truly pivotal moment for Jamaica, with the next general election set for September 3rd, 2025. Both the incumbent Jamaica Labour Party, the JLP, and the People's National Party, the PNP, have laid out their manifestos, essentially their blueprints for the nation's future. Our mission today is to cut through all the campaign rhetoric. We're going to give you a clear, fact-based, nonpartisan comparison of their core proposals. We'll examine what each party is promising, what it really means for you and your family, and honestly weigh which ideas seem, more realistic, affordable, and genuinely beneficial for everyday Jamaicans.
And that rigorous analysis is crucial. These manifestos are more than just campaign promises. They're meant to be the strategic plans for national development. But for you, the citizen, it's incredibly challenging to navigate these dense policy documents amidst a constant barrage of information and, well, partisan noise. This deep dive is designed to help you truly assess these pledges, not just what they say, but how they stack up against Jamaica's real needs and economic realities. We're going to break it down section by section to reveal the most important insights, helping you make a truly informed decision. #TAG economic management and taxation.
Let's kick things off with the bedrock of any nation's future economic management. And of course, everyone's favorite topic, taxation. These proposals have huge implications for your wallet, so let's understand exactly what each party is offering.
Okay, so for the JLP, a foundational principle is fiscal discipline and debt reduction. They're committed to continuing strict fiscal discipline. The aim, bringing Jamaica's national debt below 60% of our gross domestic product, or GDP, by 2027-28. Practically, this means more of the current approach, prioritizing long-term stability by freeing up resources, which can then, be invested elsewhere. It's generally seen as fiscally responsible, but it does mean government spending might remain a bit tight in the immediate future.
Right. Stability focus.
Exactly. And then there's the personal income tax reduction. Now, this isn't an overnight change. It's planned as a disciplined, phased move toward a long-term base rate of 15% for personal income tax. They're sort of building on their previous 1.5 initiative, which you'll remember famously doubled the income tax threshold.
Okay, so how does that hit the payslip?
Well, what this means for your payslip is that over time, if you're an average worker currently paying tax, your tax burden would gradually decrease. So you'd be left with more net pay. For instance, someone earning, say, $3 million annually would gradually see their tax rate on income above the threshold come down to 15%. That's a cut from the current higher rates. Now, this is a significant direct tax cut.
Which means?
It would mean a noticeable reduction in government revenue. So it requires careful fiscal management to balance the books, perhaps through the increased indirect taxation the JLP is sort of hinted at.
Got it. A long-term rate reduction. And I've heard them talk about simplifying things on the payslip too, right?
Absolutely. The JLP proposes consolidation of statutory deductions. This means replacing the 4 separate deductions, education tax, HART, National Insurance Scheme, NIS, and National Housing Trust, NHT, with a single unified deduction. For you, the employee, and for businesses, this simplifies payroll and makes payslips much easier to understand.
So easier to read, but not necessarily less taken out.
Exactly. The effect on your payslip is primarily administrative simplification. It's not a guaranteed reduction in the total amount unless the underlying rates are also adjusted. It's mainly about streamlining. And they're offering targeted relief, too. The JLP plans tax relief for seniors, exempting employment and pension income for persons aged 65 and above, as long as their total annual income from all sources doesn't exceed $6 million.
$6 million. Okay.
Yeah. For thousands of seniors, this means direct financial relief and more disposable income. If you're a senior earning below that $6 million annually, you'd see a significant boost in your net income.
And what about the hospitality sector, a huge employer?
Good question. For them, the JLP announced tax-free tips for hospitality workers. So tips and gratuities paid to employees in hotels, restaurants, and bars would be exempt from income tax for those earning up to $3 million per annum. This is a direct, immediate increase in take-home pay for frontline workers in that vital sector, up to that $3 million cap.
Right.
And beyond tax, the JLP also plans a sovereign investment fund. The idea is to invest budgetary surpluses globally once that debt target is met. It's a long-term national wealth strategy. They're also talking about an expanded MSME support program with increased funding and a new digital space for small and medium-sized enterprises.
Okay, so a focus on fiscal discipline, broad tax relief over time, and some very specific targeted breaks. Now, how does the PNP approach economic management and your taxes?
Well, the PNP emphasizes their historical role in macroeconomic stability. They like to remind us they initiated key fiscal reforms like the fiscal responsibility framework. Their promise is to continue prudent fiscal management, but with a stronger focus on what they call inclusive growth.
Inclusive growth, okay.
Their most talked about tax proposal for the general population is an income tax threshold increase. They're aiming to raise the income tax threshold significantly to $3.5 million. Now, it's worth noting our sources suggest this is a strong party proposal, though maybe not yet formalized in their official manifesto document.
Okay, key distinction there.
It is. But if implemented, this would be a substantial boost in disposable income for many. An average worker earning below $3.5 million annually would pay no income tax at all, while those earning above would pay tax only on income over that $3.5 million mark.
That's quite a difference from the current system.
Huge difference. This is a higher threshold than the JLP's current $1.8 million. Though the JLP, as we discussed, is focused on a rate reduction to 15% rather than just a higher threshold. From a budget perspective, this would be a very significant reduction in government revenue. It could potentially have a greater immediate impact on lower to middle income earners than the JLP's rate reduction.
That's a big number for the threshold. What else are they proposing on the tax front?
They're looking at tax-free overtime. This would remove income tax from overtime payments for workers whose total earnings don't exceed $6 million per year. This directly increases take-home pay for those who work extra hours, potentially incentivizing productivity. Overtime earnings would be entirely tax-free up to that $6 million annual cap. This would be a noticeable revenue loss, particularly for industries with high overtime.
Interesting. And tips?
Similar to the JLP, the PNP also proposes tax-free tips for tourism workers, removing tax from tips, gratuity, and commissions earned in the tourism sector. Our sources don't specify an income cap here, suggesting it might have a broader application within the tourism sector compared to the JLP's specific $3 million cap.
Right, and seniors. For seniors, the PNP proposes a bigger pension exemption, basically increasing existing tax exemptions on pension income. While beneficial for pensioners, our provided material doesn't give specific figures to directly compare with the JLP's $6 million income cap. On broader economic fronts, the PNP talks about an MSME collateral insurance facility to help small businesses access credit and a major push to digitize the informal economy.
So a lot of different approaches hitting your wallet, expert speaker. When we look at these economic visions and especially those tax proposals, how do they really stack up? Practicality, cost, benefit to everyday Jamaicans.
Yeah, the core distinction here is really about how they put more money in your pocket. The JLP's phased income tax rate reduction offers a broad benefit that grows over time for all taxpayers. The PNP's higher income tax threshold increase, however, offers more immediate and, frankly, significant relief, especially for lower to middle income earners. It either removes them from the tax net entirely or substantially reduces their taxable income.
Okay, and clarity, ease of doing things. Well, in terms of clarity, the JLP is more specific with its senior and hospitality worker tax gigs, giving clear income caps. That makes them easier to quantify. The PNP's tax-free overtime is an interesting incentive for productivity. For administrative ease, the JLP's consolidation of statutory deductions looks like a clear win in simplifying payroll. Both parties' tax cuts would be substantial in terms of lost government revenue. So careful fiscal planning would be absolutely paramount, regardless of who is in power.
Right. Huge budget implications either way.
Absolutely. And the JLP Sovereign Wealth Fund is a big long-term play for national wealth. While the PNP seems to focus more on immediate worker benefits and addressing barriers like MSME collateral insurance, especially for the informal sector. #tag2, tourism and job quality.
Okay, moving on. Tourism isn't just a part of Jamaica's economy, it's our lifeblood, supporting countless livelihoods. But it's not just about visitor numbers, it's about the quality of those jobs and how much real benefit stays in local hands. What do the manifesto say about this vital sector?
Right. The JLP's proposals for tourism kick off with a focus on affordable housing for tourism workers. They plan to incentivize resort developers to include on-site or nearby staff accommodations and expand partnerships with the NHT, Housing Agency of Jamaica, HAJ, and private developers, essentially aiming for affordable housing in resort towns.
Which is a huge issue for workers.
Absolutely. This directly addresses a critical need, helping tourism workers live closer to their jobs at reasonable costs. It's a significant benefit, but, it will require strong negotiation and substantial funding. Crucially, they propose real, fair rewards for workers. They want to mandate that at least 80% of service charges collected by establishments must be paid to employees within 3 months.
80% within 3 months. That's specific.
Very specific. This is a very direct and tangible benefit, ensuring workers receive a fair share of earnings intended for service. And it seems relatively straightforward to implement through legislation. As we touched on earlier, the JLP also includes no tax on tips and gratuities for employees earning up to $3 million per annum. Again, an immediate and clear increase in take-home pay for frontline hospitality workers.
So housing, service charges, and tips direct benefits to the worker. What about the broader impact on the industry? Skills, local involvement.
Good points. To improve the workforce, the JLP outlines pathways to certification and professions. They want to expand training programs in areas like customer service and gastronomy in partnership with HARTSTA and the Jamaica Center of Tourism Innovation, JCTI. This aims to upskill workers, leading to higher earning potential and career advancement, a long-term sustainable benefit. Their local-first approach seeks to deepen access for local producers and entrepreneurs, expanding opportunities for Jamaican manufacturers, farmers, and creatives to participate more directly in the tourism supply chain.
Keeping the money local.
It's exactly. This means more local money staying in Jamaica, creating jobs and growth beyond the direct tourism sector. Finally, the JLP proposes expanding tourism beyond the North Coast, accelerating development in areas like St. Thomas and Clarendon with ecotourism and heritage trails. This aims to spread tourism benefits and jobs to new regions, promoting regional equity, though it will require significant investment.
That's a solid plan from the JLP. Now, how does the PNP envision strengthening tourism and job quality?
The PNP's vision for tourism begins with fair wages and dignified work. They advocate for fair and living wages through updated minimum standards across the industry. They also propose removing tax from tips, gratuity, and commissions earned by tourism workers, similar to the JLP, but without an explicit income cap mentioned in our sources. Most significantly, they plan to eliminate exploitative contract work arrangements in the tourism industry.
Wow, eliminate contract work. That's huge.
It is. It would involve expanding social protections like pensions and health insurance. This is a holistic approach to improving worker welfare. And eliminating contract work would be a major legislative undertaking for labor reform. Definitely a big difference there. Their strategy also involves reinvesting tourism earnings. They want to allocate a portion of tourism tax revenue for local infrastructure and environmental renewal in key towns like Montego Bay and Negril. They also emphasize stronger links between hotels and host communities through mandatory local sourcing and partnerships.
So the money generated stays, or at least some of it, directly benefits the host communities.
Precisely. This directly contributes to the well-being of host communities and strengthens the social license for tourism. The PNP places a strong emphasis on cultural preservation and heritage integration, making cultural heritage a central part of the tourism product, supporting creative industries and funding heritage site preservation. This enhances authenticity. Similar to the JLP, the PNP addresses land access and housing for tourism workers, planning to expand land titling and housing opportunities. And they aim to strengthen local ownership and SME participation by increasing Jamaican ownership across the value chain, providing financing and support for local transport operators and attractions.
Expert speaker, both parties seem keen on ensuring tourism benefits all Jamaicans, not just big resorts. But are there any clear differentiators here in terms of immediate impact and, long-term feasibility?
Yeah, there are. The JLP's clear legislative mandate for an 80% service charge payout is very concrete. It's an immediate win for workers, tangible, measurable increase in earnings. Their specific cap on tax-free tips, $3 arrows, also offers clarity. However, the PNP's focus on eliminating exploitative contract work that represents a really significant systemic change for worker dignity and long-term labor reform. It could have a profound impact on the security and rights of many workers, though, like I said, it's a more complex legislative task.
So different approaches to worker benefits.
Definitely. Both recognize the critical need for housing and strengthening local linkages. That's common ground. The JLP's explicit mention of expanding tourism beyond the North Coast provides a clear geographical equity component. But the PNP's proposal to allocate a portion of tourism tax revenue back into communities provides a structured, direct way to ensure benefits flow locally for infrastructure and environmental renewal. That's a key differentiator, a kind of direct reinvestment mechanism. #tag33. Agriculture and food security.
Okay, let's move from tourism to something equally vital, agriculture. From field to plate, a strong agricultural sector means true food security for Jamaica, not just for today, but for generations. How do our parties plan to feed the nation and support our hardworking farmers?
Right, this is critical. The JLP's proposals in agriculture show a strong focus on social protection and modernization. The first ever farmers' pension scheme really stands out. They've committed a significant $1 billion in seed funding. This aims to provide social protection and financial dignity for farmers and fishers in retirement. It's a significant social benefit, and with that initial funding, relatively clear to implement.
A pension for farmers, that's new.
It is. They also propose establishing one agro-park per parish. These would be fully equipped agricultural zones, irrigation, storage, roads developed on lands from the National Land Agency, NLA, and SCJ Holdings. A key detail here is that 25% of these lands will be designated for women, youth, and persons with disabilities under their FEED program, so promoting inclusivity.
Sounds ambitious.
Yeah.
Costly.
High capital investment, yes, but it also has high potential for productivity and equity. To address a perennial challenge, financing, the JLP plans a small agribusiness, financing and empowerment, SAFE fund. They're allocating $2 billion in capital to financial institutions for concessionary loans, preferential rates, moratoriums, extended terms. This directly improves access to affordable financing for small farmers and agribusinesses, tackling a key barrier to growth. For modernization, they propose a protected agriculture innovation facility, $3 billion through the Development Bank of Jamaica, DBJ, to finance greenhouses and climate-smart production. Think tractors, drones, irrigation tech. Essential for long-term sustainability and boosting yields.
So pensions, dedicated farming zones, and financing, that's quite a comprehensive package for farmers. What about the PNP's vision for agriculture?
The PNP's agricultural proposals also prioritize support for farmers and food security, often with a broader, maybe more systemic focus. They plan an agricultural development fund to provide timely and transparent support for land prep, inputs, irrigation, storage, marketing, the whole cycle. It's a comprehensive support system, though the execution, being timely and transparent, will be absolutely key.
Always the challenge, execution.
Always. A crucial focus for them is a national irrigation plan to improve access to water for small farmers and key crops. This is absolutely critical for climate resilience and consistent crop yields. It represents a high cost, yes, but it's essential for productivity. To address land access, they propose secure and long-term leases on idle government lands for youth and community groups for productive farming. This is a relatively low-cost government initiative that offers a high benefit by increasing access to land for new farmers and improving land security.
That's interesting, targeting idle land.
Yes, and a very ambitious national goal to reduce the national food import bill by 25% over 5 years. This would significantly boost local production, strengthen food sovereignty, and save foreign exchange. It's a critical target for national resilience, but one that requires a highly coordinated effort across multiple sectors. And for the future of farming, the PNP focuses on youth in agriculture and training, expanding hard-assisted training in modern farming, agro-processing, agribusiness, trying to attract youth and ensure modernization.
It sounds like both parties are taking food security and the welfare of farmers very seriously. Expert speaker, what truly stands out in these agricultural blueprints? Any major differences in philosophy?
What's truly striking here is the shared emphasis on modernizing agriculture and building resilience against climate change. That's common ground. The JLP's commitment to a dedicated farmers' pension scheme with that initial seed funding is a concrete and frankly transformative social safety net. It directly impacts the dignity of farmers in retirement. Their promise of specific agro-parks per parish is also a clear, targeted approach to infrastructure. The PNP counters with an overarching agricultural development fund for broad support and, notably, that clear, ambitious target to reduce the food import bill by 25% over 5 years. That would have a significant macroeconomic impact on national resilience and foreign exchange.
So JLP more specific on pensions and parks, PNP with a big national target on imports.
Largely, yes. And the PNP's focus on secure land leases for youth and a national irrigation plan are fundamental for growth and long-term land security, especially for new farmers. Both clearly aim to support youth in agriculture and promote climate-smart practices, which is definitely excellent to see across the board. #TagHireV, housing, land, and ownership.
Okay, moving to another fundamental issue, housing. A place to call your own is a basic dream for many Jamaicans and a critical component of national stability and wealth creation. Let's dig into how each party plans to address housing shortages and land ownership in Jamaica. These are always huge topics.
Absolutely huge. The JLP's proposals start strong with a commitment to delivering 25,000 land titles per year. They plan to build on the existing systematic land registration system, leverage digital titles and surveys, and even establish a new land surveying training school to increase capacity. Crucially, the National Housing Trust, the NHT, will finance title costs with flexible repayment options.
25,000 titles a year, that's massive.
It is. It's a massive effort to formalize land ownership, providing security and an asset for thousands. It's ambitious, offers high benefit, but it demands significant capacity building and digitization efforts. They've set an equally ambitious target of 60,000 housing solutions in the next term. This would be through direct construction and initiatives to expand supply, drive down costs, and increase homeownership. Their focus is on creating sustainable communities, think essential infrastructure, public services, green spaces. This addresses the housing deficit on a large scale, but again, it's a very high-cost project.
Right. And they mentioned specific NHT changes.
Yes, extensive NHT benefits expansion. Several specific measures that would directly affect you, the listener. For teachers, nurses, and security forces, they're offering additional reductions in NHT loan interest 1% after 5 years and 2% after 10 years of service, a direct financial incentive. They're increasing mortgage loan limits. For single applicants, it goes from $7.5 million to $9 million, or even $12 million for homes, $14 million or less. Similar increases for co-applicants, effective July 1st, 2025. This allows greater access to higher quality homes.
That keeps pace with rising prices somewhat.
It tries to. And they're reducing deposit requirements from 5% down to 2% for contributors earning under $30,000 weekly for homes up to $14 million. Again, effective July 1st, 2025. This significantly lowers the entry barrier for lower income contributors. Huge for affordability. They also mentioned increased construction loan limits, reduced waiting times for home improvement loans, and expanded home grant eligibility, all aimed at broadening accessibility across different housing needs.
That's a very detailed and broad set of proposals from the JLP, especially around the NHT, very specific. What about the PNP's plans?
The PNP opens with a strong foundational reform, fixing the NHT. They pledge to end the annual extraction of $11.4 billion from the National Housing Trust and restore it to its original purpose of financing and building affordable housing.
And the $11.4 billion drawdown. That's a major policy shift.
It's huge. This is a major reform that could unleash significant capital for housing, directly increasing the NHT's capacity to fulfill its core mandate.
They're fundamental change.
They plan to build 50,000 affordable houses on public lands over 5 years. And here's an innovative twist. They propose to exclude the value of the land from the price to make ownership more accessible.
So you buy the house, not the land. Makes it cheaper.
Exactly. A direct, large-scale intervention to tackle the housing deficit and make homes significantly cheaper. A highly inclusive proposal is the NHT Rent-to-Own program. This is specifically designed for self-employed and informally employed individuals. Tenants can move in, use a portion of their rent towards a deposit, and access mortgages after just 6 months of payments. This creates a pathway to home ownership for those typically excluded due to lack of traditional payslips. It addresses a significant market gap.
Rent to own via NHT. Interesting. What else?
They also propose a $1 billion Young Owners Deposit Fund. This would be replenished annually within the NHT. It enables persons up to 45 years old to access non-refundable grants of $500,000 for their first home deposit, requiring just 2 years of NHT contribution. Direct financial assistance for young first-time homeowners. For public sector workers, the PNP plans to restore reduced interest rates for teachers, nurses, police, military officers, reinstating a previously offered benefit. They also propose an interest rate reduction for persons with disabilities and a 40% debt service ratio for public sector workers to help them qualify for larger NHT loans.
And land ownership specifically.
Yes, on land ownership, the PNP proposes to amend the Limitations of Actions Act. They want to reduce the years required for adverse possession of Crown lands from 60 down to 25 years. This has the potential to transfer significant land wealth to long-term occupants, providing security and equity. Though, of course, it will require careful legal processes.
Wow, so much detail on housing and land. Expert speaker who really stands out for the homeowner and aspiring landowner here. It feels like both have big plans.
They do, and this really raises an important question of wealth creation and social equity. The JLP's massive target of 25,000 land titles per year, combined with their new surveying school, is a robust approach to formalizing ownership and building institutional capacity. Very structured. Their expanded NHT benefits cover a very wide range of needs, making housing more accessible across different demographics and income levels through specific adjustments to loan limits and deposit requirements. Very granular.
But the PNP's NHT fix is foundational.
Exactly. The PNP's pledge to end the $11.4 billion NHT extraction could fundamentally reshape the NHT's capacity for investment. It could potentially unleash far more capital for its core housing mandate. Their rent-to-own program offers a unique and highly inclusive pathway for informal workers to achieve homeownership, addressing a significant market gap. Furthermore, The PNP's proposal to reduce adverse possession years to 25 is a power mechanism for wealth transfer to long-term occupants and communities. It directly addresses historical land tenure issues. So both parties have compelling large-scale housing targets, but the PNP's direct approach to land transfer and the NHT's financial restructuring feel quite transformative, potentially more radical changes. #tag VV. Infrastructure. Roads, transport, electricity, internet, water.
Okay, let's talk infrastructure. From the lights in your home to the roads you drive on, it's the backbone of daily life and economic progress. Let's see how each party plans to modernize Jamaica's essential services and what it means for you.
Right. The JLP's infrastructure plans are extensive and detailed. For electricity, they propose a JPS license renegotiation in 2027. The aim is cheaper electricity, greater sustainability. It's a long-term process, obviously, but potentially high impact on energy costs for everyone. They also focus on cutting electricity costs and supporting households through a reduced general consumption tax, GCT, to 7%, a 10% rebate for those using under 250 kilowatt hours, kWh, and pathways to legal electricity connections with prepaid meters.
So some immediate bill relief there?
Yes, immediate, tangible benefits for many households. An ambitious goal is 50% renewable energy by 2030, with significant new capacity procured by 2025-2027, critical for sustainability and long-term cost reduction. For water, the JLP aims to transform water infrastructure, targeting 900,000 more Jamaicans with expanded access. This includes expanding the Mona Reservoir by 50% and doubling Hermitage Dam capacity. These are massive capital projects with long-term high benefits for water security. They also plan additional household and community storage, 100,000 household tanks, 100 community tanks, increasing resilience to drought at the local level. A critical focus is to reduce water loss from the current, 65% down to 35% through smarter distribution and major pipeline replacement, essential for sustainability despite the high cost.
65% loss is huge, so significant investments in power and water infrastructure. What about roads and transport, which affect every commuter?
On roads and transport, the JLP plans a new one-road authority. The idea is to manage a database of 27,000 roads and enforce construction maintenance standards. It's an institutional reform for better long-term management. They list major road expansions and upgrades, including specific projects like the Harborview Airport Roundabout, the Montego Bay Bypass. These are massive, high-cost projects, but critical for national development, reducing congestion, improving connectivity. A significant social benefit proposed is the National Rural School Bus System, offering a flat fare of just $50 per trip. They estimate this could save parents up to $180,000 annually.
$50 a trip, that's a big deal for rural families.
Huge deal. Make school transport affordable and reliable for rural students. Boost attendance. They also plan more comfortable and reliable JUTC transportation with new routes and 100 new buses, improving public transport quality. For internet and digital, the JLP targets 300 more public Wi-Fi hotspots focusing on rural and low-income communities and commits to an expanded national broadband initiative, fiber-to-the-home, 5G availability island-wide.
That's a very comprehensive list of projects and initiatives from the JLP, very specific. Now, let's hear the PNP's plans for modernizing Jamaica's essential services.
The PNP's approach to infrastructure also shows ambition, often with a focus on systemic change and equity. For energy, they also propose to renegotiate the JPSCO license, but maybe more forcefully. To ensure public interest protection, substantially lowering electricity costs, and accelerating renewable energy transition. It's a direct challenge to the monopoly, with high potential impact, but it demands strong political will and negotiation skills. Their electricity empowerment program aims to help low-income households regularize consumption and support solar system installations.
Okay, renegotiating JPS. What about water?
In water, the PNP sets an incredibly ambitious goal: every Jamaican household access to clean water by 2030. This involves creating a national map of water-insecure communities and publishing a public delivery plan with timelines. This is the highest possible benefit, obviously, but it will be extremely challenging and costly to achieve by 2030. They also commit to invest in new pipelines, pumps, and storage tanks to reduce chronic water loss and audit upgrade leaking infrastructure to reduce that current 40% loss figure they cite. They prioritize climate-resilient rural water systems like rainwater harvesting, solar-powered purification, offering sustainable, locally appropriate solutions.
Universal water access by 2030. Bold. And roads and digital connectivity under the PNP.
For roads and transport, the PNP emphasizes rehabilitate and maintain roads, prioritizing interior roads, community roads, and farm roads. This directly addresses long-standing neglect of non-main roads, benefiting rural communities and farmers specifically. They also propose to reintroduce the lengthman system for drain cleaning and roadside maintenance, using community contractors. This revives a traditional, cost-effective, community-driven maintenance system, creating local employment.
The lengthman system, bringing that back.
Yeah. For internet and digital, the PNP plans to establish a department for rural broadband access, a specific department to drive the expansion of affordable and reliable broadband to underserved areas. They also commit to equipping all community centers with free Wi-Fi. This is a dedicated, centralized approach to bridging the digital divide in rural areas.
Expert speaker, who has the more practical or impactful plan for keeping Jamaica running and modernizing its infrastructure? Seems like different philosophies again.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, both parties have ambitious infrastructure plans, no doubt. The JLP lists many specific large-scale projects, highway extensions, dam construction, indicating a continuation of current major national development initiatives. Their detailed NHT benefits for housing also show that very granular approach. The PNP's approach, however, often focuses more on systemic reforms, like renegotiating the JPSCO license, which could have a broad impact on affordability for all consumers, or setting that clear, ambitious target for universal water access by 2030. Their emphasis on rehabilitating rural roads and the reintroduction of the lengthman system directly benefits local communities and provides employment in a cost-effective manner.
And the internet.
In terms of internet access, both prioritize expansion, which is good, but the PNP's creation of a dedicated department for rural broadband signals a centralized and focused effort on bridging the digital divide in those underserved areas. So it's really a balance between ongoing large-scale capital projects, which the JLP details extensively, and foundational systemic changes with strong equity components, which the PNP tends to highlight more. Hashtag Take 27, Education and Youth Development.
All right, education and youth development. These are direct investments in Jamaica's future, plain and simple. How do our parties plan to empower the next generation and support our educators? This is crucial for long-term national growth.
Absolutely crucial. The JLP's education proposals are extensive and deeply detailed. They prioritize mastering literacy and numeracy, things like daily timetabled reading instruction in grades 1-3, specialist coaches, evidence-based interventions like the ARROW program. They also plan to update PP exams and establish 28 brain builder centers for child development. These are comprehensive interventions for a critical national issue.
Addressing the basics strongly.
Yes. And for inclusive classrooms, the JLP plans fully operational special needs diagnostic centers, complete with mobile units to fast-track assessments. They envision a children's passport for early detection, special education desks per region, and enhanced inclusive training for educators. This is a high-cost but crucial plan for equity. It aims to create a more supportive and responsive education system for children with special needs. They also propose hiring over 1,000 new special education needs assistants, SENAs, and expanding the early stimulation program.
So, a strong focus on foundational learning and special needs. What about technology and the teachers themselves?
Right. The JLP commits to a digital school environment, a Jamaica Learning Assistant platform offering free online access and AI tutors, plus smart classrooms with smart boards and devices. It's a high investment, yes, but essential for modernizing learning and preparing students for the digital future. To prepare students for future careers, the JLP envisions Jamaica as a STEAM nation. STEAM clubs in 50% of schools, 6 new STEAM schools, AI labs and universities fostering innovation, preparing students for high-demand fields.
STEAM focus.
Yeah. And recognizing the importance of educators, the JLP commits to a well-resourced and empowered teacher. Things like staff room transformation, AI tools for educators, and a teacher wellness program, directly supporting teacher retention and quality. Finally, a major financial relief program, the student loan debt reset, offering 100% waiver of late fees and penalties and a 50% waiver of interest arrears for delinquent debtors. And notably, a $100,000 credit will also be applied to accounts in good standing, rewarding responsible borrowers.
That student loan plan is significant. Okay, that's a very detailed outline for the education sector from the JLP. What does the PNP propose?
The PNP's education strategy focuses on fundamental reforms and direct support. They aim to fix the foundation, literacy, numeracy, with a goal of every child being literate and numerate by grade 6. This involves smaller classes, better trained teachers, modern materials. Critically, they propose direct funded initiatives to tackle absenteeism. There's the RIDE program, offering a $10,000 per month subsidy for 20,000 students, and the EASE program, providing 1 hot meal daily for needy students.
Direct cash and food support for students.
Exactly. Comprehensive initiatives that directly address foundational learning and student welfare. RIDE is a specific high-cost subsidy, though. For tertiary and vocational access, the PNP aims for at least 1 member per household to have a tertiary degree or level 4 HEART-SETS certification. They propose expanding government-funded spaces and needs-based grants. Similar to the JLP, they propose a student loan amnesty program. But here's a crucial difference. They plan to cap loan payments at a manageable percentage of income and suspend payments during unemployment, with payments just added to the back end without penalties.
Capping payments and suspending them if unemployed. That's a big help for borrowers.
Huge difference for borrowers' long-term financial health. Significantly eases student debt burden. Their curriculum proposals include a 21st century curriculum, AI learning, emotional intelligence, and a focus on culture and creativity. Jamaican patois is a cultural language, English is ESL, restoring civics and Marcus Garvey studies, modernizing while embedding cultural identity. For support for teachers, the PNP proposes student debt reductions, graduated motor vehicle concessions, priority in NHT loans, and free internet service, addressing key concerns for teacher welfare and retention. Finally, on technology, they plan to remove taxes on laptops and tablets for students and teachers, making essential learning tools more affordable and accessible.
So what's the verdict on preparing our young people and our educators for the future, expert speaker? There's a lot of alignment, but also some key differences, especially on student support.
What's really striking here is the depth of proposals from both parties. They're both clearly thinking hard about this. The JLP presents a highly detailed approach to special needs education, specific diagnostic centers, training, staffing, very comprehensive for ensuring inclusion. Their student loan debt reset, with that added $100,000 credit for accounts in good standing, is significant financial relief that also rewards responsible behavior. Their Brain Builder centers and STEAM focus are innovative, future-oriented.
Okay. And the PNP's direct support.
The PNP's RIDE and EASE programs, direct subsidies for student travel, daily meals provide very immediate and tangible relief for students facing economic barriers, directly addressing absenteeism and nutrition. Their focus on the First and Family Scholarship and, critically, capping student loan payments at a manageable percentage of income and suspending payments during unemployment. That's highly impactful for social mobility and the long-term sustainability of student debt for borrowers. Both have strong curriculum modernization plans, but the PNP's explicit mention of patois and Marcus Garvey is culturally significant. And removing taxes on laptops and tablets for students and teachers by the PNP is also a direct, accessible benefit that could help bridge the digital divide for many individuals. #TagChack7, health and care for seniors.
All right, let's talk health. Health is wealth, as they say, and caring for our seniors is surely a mark of a compassionate society. Let's examine what each party offers for your well-being and for our elders. These areas touch every single Jamaican family.
Absolutely. The JLP's health proposals begin with extensive primary health care reform. They aim to increase health centers, offering doctors 5 days a week, targeting 67 centers, and expand services, maternal child health, mental health, senior care. This includes $500 million for health center upgrades and increasing late opening hours by 25%. What this means is greater access to primary care closer to home and improved facilities, addressing a critical access gap.
More access at the local level.
Exactly. For hospital expansion upgrade, the JLP plans to increase bed spaces and specialist services. They commit to opening the Western Child and Adolescent Hospital, renovating Cornwall Regional, building a new Kingston Public Hospital, KPH, and completing a new parent wing at Bustamante. They also aim to add 27 operating theaters. These are high-cost, long-term investments for critical care, aimed at reducing overcrowding and improving specialist services.
That's a huge focus on physical infrastructure for healthcare. Big builds. What about technology and staffing?
Good question. They propose new centers of excellence for NCDs, non-communicable diseases, focusing on prevalent issues like diabetes and heart disease, with an emphasis on prevention and integrated care, targeting major public health challenges. The JLP also plans to leverage AI for healthcare supporting cross-border treatment, lifestyle predictability, community screening, using technology for efficiency and patient care, though this requires significant investment in tech and training. They commit to increased diagnostic equipment like CT and MRI machines for faster, more accurate diagnoses and expanding electronic health records, EHR. To address staffing, they plan to increase the number and training of healthcare workers, training over 500 professionals over 3 years and exploring bilateral arrangements.
And for seniors specifically.
For seniors, as we covered in the economic section, the JLP reiterates income tax relief, exempting employment and pension income for persons aged 65 plus, with total annual income under $6 million. They also propose priority services in government offices for persons aged 65 plus, improving dignity and convenience. A significant policy is a new law for senior citizens, a comprehensive law to protect rights and care, establishing an older person's advocate, and an I Am Alive app for digital pension certification, a kind of holistic approach to senior welfare, making processes easier.
That I Am Alive app sounds practical. Okay, that's a very detailed plan from the JLP. Now, what about the PNP's approach to health and senior care?
The PNP's vision for health focuses on healthcare with dignity. They propose a national maternal child health program, expand neonatal intensive care units, and reform emergency services with an adopt an ambulance program and paramedic training. They plan to create centers of excellence for day surgeries to reduce backlogs and establish 24-hour urgent care centers. Crucially, they aim for every parish hospital to have radiology CT scan capacity and to strengthen mental health services with more professionals and mobile emergency teams. It's a comprehensive approach that addresses critical areas, particularly mental health and emergency response.
Mental health getting specific focus there, and support for the workers.
Yes, for support for health workers, the PNP commits to continuously reviewing staffing, providing better housing support via NHT, offering graduated concessionary duty rates on motor vehicles, and student loan forgiveness based on years of service or work in underserved areas. These are direct incentives for a vital workforce, addressing key concerns for retention and morale.
And what about specific large-scale support for seniors and persons with disabilities? That's often a major concern.
Right. For seniors, the PNP proposes a substantial 5-year, $5 billion investment plan. This is to support 100,000 seniors with care, inclusion, and protection. It includes community-based support services, meals, personal care, wellness checks. This is a significant targeted funding commitment for elder care at the community level. They also plan a national caregiver program to train and compensate community caregivers and to pass an Elder Care and Protection Act. To bridge the digital divide for seniors, they propose a Digital Inclusion for Seniors program, $750 million to provide digital devices and subsidies to 25,000 seniors, along with digital help desks. Finally, the PNP emphasizes the inclusion of persons with disabilities, proposing a National Disability Fund with $1 billion annually. This would strengthen the Jamaica Council for Persons with Disabilities, JCPD, fund tech solutions, and ensure all public buildings, schools, facilities are accessible. A dedicated funding stream and comprehensive strategy for PWD inclusion.
Expert speaker. There's a lot of focus on vulnerable groups here from both sides. Which party's plan feels more comprehensive or perhaps actionable for the health and welfare of Jamaicans?
Well, this raises an important question of holistic care versus, say, infrastructure focus and also sustained impact. Both parties clearly prioritize health and senior care. That's evident. The JLP's plan details significant hospital infrastructure projects, increased operating theaters, and a robust strategy for health worker training and retention. It indicates a continuation of large-scale capital investment. Their I Am Alive app for seniors is a practical digital innovation for convenience.
But the PNP's big funds.
Exactly. The PNP has that impressive, dedicated $5 billion investment plan for seniors over 5 years. That's a very clear and substantial financial commitment to community-based elder care. There are specific programs like Adopt an Ambulance, target critical emergency services, and the establishment of a National Disability Fund with an annual $1 billion allocation shows a dedicated and comprehensive financial commitment to PWD inclusion. The PNP's emphasis on expanding National Health Fund NHF coverage for seniors, including free surgical implants and screenings, is also a direct financial benefit to many. So, while both show strong commitment to health worker support, the PNP's targeted funding for seniors and PWDs feels particularly impactful in addressing the needs of vulnerable populations with dedicated large-scale financial commitments. #be8th, Justice, Security, and Governance.
Okay, let's turn to justice, security, and governance. These are the pillars of a stable nation, directly impacting your safety and trust in public institutions. Let's delve into how the JLP and PNP plan to uphold the rule of law and strengthen democratic institutions.
Right. The JLP's proposals for security begin with a commitment to a gang-free Jamaica. They plan to continue efforts to identify, interdict, disarm, and dismantle criminal organizations, building intelligence capacity, strengthening ports against gun flow. This is direct, ongoing action against a root cause of violence, though it remains a very challenging endeavor. They also aim for full digitization and automation within the Jamaica Constabulary Force, JCF, including a C5 ultramodern command and control facility. This improves police efficiency and response to crime, modernizing policing, but requiring high initial investment. For rehabilitation, they focus on improving corrections and rehabilitation, overhauling policy, legislative reforms, intensifying rehabilitation efforts, including psychological support and vocational training, aiming to disrupt the criminal cycle.
Improving the back-end corrections.
Yes. In justice, the JLP proposes a paperless court initiative and judicial complexes, advancing a paperless system, constructing new technology-enabled judicial complexes island-wide, improves efficiency, transparency, accessibility of the court system. They also prioritize backlog reduction through expanded case management and increased judicial staffing. A socially progressive initiative is restorative justice and child diversion, scaling up programs, amending laws to decriminalize nonviolent status crimes like truancy, focusing on rehabilitation, reducing criminalization, especially for youth.
So, targeting gangs, modernizing the police and courts, and diverting youth from crime, what's their approach to governance?
For governance, the JLP highlights constitutional reform. They state they will move from the monarchy to a republic and broaden national consultations on wider constitutional reform. This is a monumental change, requires a long process, but deepens sovereignty. They also commit to strong and fair anti-corruption oversight bodies, strengthening the Integrity Commission and MOCA. A practical transparency measure is a real-time procurement portal for government contracts, promoting fairness and public understanding. Finally, the Government of Jamaica, GOJ Talent Gateway, is proposed as a single portal for public sector vacancies to promote transparency in hiring, ensuring merit-based recruitment.
That's a comprehensive overview of the JLP's plan for a more secure and just Jamaica. What's the PNP bringing to the table? This is often a key battleground.
It is. The PNP's approach to security shifts the paradigm. They want to treat violence as a public health issue. This involves identifying risk factors, early intervention, trauma recovery, victim support, addressing root causes beyond just enforcement. They propose policing for community trust, expanding intelligence-led policing, improving training in human rights and de-escalation, building police-community relationships. Critically, the PNP focuses heavily on improving welfare and protection for law enforcement, allowing police retirement at 65 optional, adjusting pension formulas, priority firearm licensing, and significantly increasing death benefits for fallen officers from $14 million to $25 million.
Big focus on police welfare there.
A very direct address to concerns for police welfare, a critical morale booster. In justice, the PNP's constitutional reform for sovereignty and justice is extremely ambitious. They propose replacing the British monarch with a Jamaican president, making the Caribbean Court of Justice, CCJ, the final appellate court, and strengthening parliamentary accountability. They also propose expanding the Senate to include representatives from the diaspora, persons with disabilities, Rastafari, and Maroon communities.
Wow, that's a massive constitutional overhaul proposed.
It's comprehensive, deepening sovereignty and representation with very high impact. Their legal and legislative reform aims to recognize Jamaican language, protect marginalized groups, ban hair discrimination, reparations advocacy, Rastafari recognition, and advance gender equity. They also propose to expand legal aid to civil and constitutional matters, making justice more accessible for ordinary people.
So a radical constitutional overhaul and social justice reforms. What about accountability in government? That's always a hot topic.
Yes. For governance, the PNP plans to restore the office of political ombudsman as an independent watchdog, strengthening oversight. They aim to strengthen the Integrity Commission by amending the gag clause to balance privacy and the public's right to know. This directly addresses a key public concern regarding corruption and transparency. Their local government reform involves empowering parish development committees, shifting focus from constituency politics to community development, implementing participatory budgeting, aiming to decentralize power, increase citizen participation. Finally, they propose restoring integrity and access to public information by prohibiting public funds for advertising during elections, except for critical services.
Prohibiting government ads during election time.
Yes, preventing misuse of public resources for political campaigning, increasing fairness.
Expert speaker, this is where the policy differences truly emerge, especially on governance. Who has a stronger vision for justice, security, and governance?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the PNP's constitutional reform proposals are far more ambitious and comprehensive, encompassing the move to a republic, CCJ's final court, expanding the Senate to be truly representative. It's a transformative vision for Jamaica's sovereignty. Their approach to violence is a public health issue, and substantial police welfare improvements are also very strong, addressing morale and systemic causes. The JLP counters with concrete operational improvements in JCF digitization and corrections, which are essential for efficiency. Their decriminalization of nonviolent status crimes is a good step for justice reform. However, the PNP's proposals on amending the Integrity Commission gag clause and prohibiting public funds for election advertising speak directly to current, significant public concerns about government accountability and fairness. This is definitely a segment where the PNP has leaned into bold systemic changes to governance structure and practice. #IXX, labor and worker protections.
Moving on to labor. The strength of a nation lies in its workforce and how well it's protected and empowered. Let's see how the JLP and PNP plan to protect workers' rights and uplift the labor force.
Okay. The JLP's proposals for labor focus on job security, skills development, and new social safety nets. They aim to strengthen job security by continuing to transition public sector contract workers to permanent positions, building on the 16,000 they say are already made permanent. This addresses precarity for government employees, providing stability and benefits in line with ILO principles. They also commit to increasing the minimum wage, continuing to review cost of living and economic conditions, an ongoing commitment to worker dignity.
Skills development.
Yes, a significant long-term investment is the National Skills Bank, envisioned as an all-encompassing database to identify labor shortages and mismatched skill sets. A collaborative tool to guide training needs and prepare Jamaicans, including persons with disabilities and vulnerable groups, for future work. Addressing skills gaps nationally through strategic workforce planning. They also propose an electronic labor exchange, JamaicaJobs.gov.jm, upgrading its functionality to create a centralized, accessible platform for job seekers and employers. A major social protection reform is the Unemployment Insurance Project, adding a Jamaica unemployment insurance benefit to the NIS. This would provide a guaranteed safety net for NIS contributors who lose their jobs. A crucial social safety net, but a major reform with high costs and complex implementation. Finally, the JLP commits to finalizing and passing the Occupational Safety and Health Bill, OSH, to protect workers' rights and ensure safer workplaces.
So a new unemployment safety net and a strategic approach to skills. What are the PNP's plans for workers?
The PNP's labor proposals focus heavily on modernizing laws, addressing systemic worker exploitation, and strengthening worker representation. They plan to modernize labor laws and workplace protections with a strong emphasis on ending the widespread abuse of contract work arrangements through legislation. This directly addresses systemic issues of worker exploitation, a major point of difference. They also commit to reviewing and modernizing Jamaica's labor laws and, like the JLP, passing the Occupational Health and Safety Act. A key proposal is launching a livable wage commission to recommend a fair national minimum wage, aiming for a fair living wage.
The livable wage concept.
Yes. For worker representation and sector councils, the PNP aims to establish joint industrial councils for major sectors like tourism and security, empowering labor, giving workers a stronger voice. In terms of economic security and pension reform, they propose removing tax from overtime payments, as we discussed, and increasing existing tax exemptions on pension income. They also plan to expand the employee share ownership program and increase the employment tax credit cap to 40%. The PNP also aims for international standards and global engagement, committing to ratify all outstanding International Labor Organization (ILO) conventions. This aligns Jamaica with global best practices for labor rights and strengthens labor inspection systems. Finally, they propose a new social contract for the future of work, supporting remote work, protecting informal workers, promoting lifelong learning.
Expert speaker who truly champions the Jamaican worker in these manifestos, especially when looking at the systemic issues versus new benefits.
Yeah, this raises that important question. Foundational rights versus new benefits. Both commit to passing the OSH bill and addressing the minimum wage. That's common ground. The JLP's Unemployment Insurance Project is a significant new social safety net, providing crucial financial support during job loss, a major social protection reform. Their National Skills Bank is a strategic long-term investment in workforce planning. However, the PNP's explicit focus on ending the widespread abuse of contract work arrangements through legislation goes directly to the heart of systemic worker protection and dignity. It addresses a long-standing issue of exploitation. Their commitment to ratifying all outstanding ILO conventions is a strong statement on aligning Jamaica with global labor rights standards. The Livable Wage Commission advocates for worker dignity, while their tax-free overtime and expanded employee share ownership program are direct economic benefits. So the PNP's proposals on contractual work and ILO conventions represent perhaps a more fundamental rebalancing of power and rights in the workplace. #X, environmental sustainability.
All right, the environment. Climate change is a clear and present danger for Jamaica, directly impacting our livelihoods, coastlines, and future. How do our parties plan to safeguard our natural resources and build environmental resilience? This is critical for an island nation.
Absolutely critical. The JLP's proposals for environmental sustainability are quite detailed, particularly in waste management. They plan to transform the National Solid Waste Management Authority, NSWMA, into a modern regulator, separating garbage collection from oversight functions to improve efficiency, and institutional reform for better governance. Their most significant proposal, arguably, is an integrated solid waste management system. It's a multi-phase plan. Includes modern waste collection, a 65-megawatt waste-to-energy facility, and a modern sanitary landfill. Phase 3 adds another 26-megawatt waste-to-energy facility. And importantly, upon completion, Riverton and other open dumps would be closed and rehabilitated.
Finally tackling Riverton properly.
That's the plan. It's a high-cost, but potentially transformative and sustainable solution for waste management. Generates renewable energy, addresses a long-standing environmental hazard. The JLP commits to plant 3 million more trees and expand protected areas, aiming to protect 30% of Jamaica's land 5 years ahead of national and global targets. A significant, measurable commitment for biodiversity and climate protection. They also focus on cutting pollution and scaling up recycling, aiming to raise the plastics recycling rate to 70% within 5 years and ban more unrecyclable plastics. To protect ecosystems, they plan restoring wetlands, reefs, and mangroves with strategic projects in Negril and Hillshire. So, big moves on waste management and significant conservation targets. What about marine protection and public access to beaches? Good points. They propose creating a river control authority to centralize management of river systems and launch community-based environmental wardens. The JLP also aims at doubling marine protection and reviving coral reefs, increasing marine protection to 30% of Jamaica's exclusive economic zone, EEZ, and expanding coral reef restoration, high ecological importance. Finally, they aim for guaranteeing public beach access, developing 20 public beach parks, and finalizing a beach access policy, ensuring equitable access to coastal resources for all Jamaicans.
That's a very specific and ambitious set of environmental initiatives from the JLP. What are the PNP's plans in this area?
The PNP's environmental strategy focuses more on systemic integration and governance reforms. A different angle. They aim to mainstream environmental protection across government, mandating environmental impact review for all policies and projects. This integrates environmental considerations at the highest level of policymaking as a systemic preventative measure.
Built into the process from the start.
It's exactly. Their environmental governance and legal reform proposals are particularly strong here. They commit to ratifying the Escazú Agreement, ensures public participation, environmental justice. Crucially, they propose amending the Natural Resources Conservation Authority, NRCA Act, to give the National Environment and Planning Agency, NEPA, greater autonomy. And critically, situating NEPA outside a growth-focused ministry to reduce conflicts of interest.
Moving NEPA's oversight, that's a big structural change.
It is. These are significant structural reforms addressing systemic weaknesses in environmental governance, increasing public participation, and aiming to reduce political interference. For resilience through waste and water management, the PNP plans to replace open dumps with safe, scientifically designed landfills and develop a national waste management strategy based on circular economy principles. Comprehensive. Lastly, in green financing and nature-based development, the PNP proposes to pursue a debt-for-nature swap, restructuring debt while investing in environmental conservation. They aim to expand participation in global carbon credit markets and attract climate finance, positioning Jamaica as a leader in climate resilience, innovative financing for sustainability.
Expert speaker who has the stronger, more sustainable vision for Jamaica's environment, balancing immediate actions like waste management with long-term systemic change and governance.
Well, what's truly compelling here is the shared commitment to comprehensive waste management reform. That's clearly a national priority recognized by both. The JLP's detailed multi-phase waste-to-energy plan stands out as a concrete, high-investment, and potentially transformative solution to the Riverton City issue and broader waste challenges. Very specific project details. The JLP also provides very specific, measurable targets for tree planting and marine protection, making their environmental commitments quite tangible. However, the PNP's foundational proposals ratifying Escazú, amending the NRCA Act for NEPA autonomy, situating NEPA outside a growth ministry, these are significant structural reforms for long-term environmental governance. These changes aim to address inherent conflicts of interest and empower the environmental agency, which could have a profound, lasting impact on policy and enforcement. Their pursuit of a debt-for-nature swap is also an innovative financing mechanism that could free up substantial resources for environmental action. So both are strong. But the PNP's institutional reforms feel fundamental to the integrity and effectiveness of environmental protection moving forward. #YesButIHi. Culture, sports, and heritage.
Okay, finally, let's talk culture, sports, and heritage. Jamaica's vibrant culture, our world-renowned sports prowess, our rich heritage, they're global treasures and significant economic drivers. How do our parties plan to nurture these crucial aspects of national identity and economy?
Right. The JLP's proposals for culture and heritage include supporting cultural practitioners, things like training in creative rights business, group health insurance, certification, aims to professionalize the creative sector, provide social safety nets. They plan to advance reparatory justice, finalizing a national reparation policy, petitioning King Charles III, investing in Maroon Rastafari communities, politically and socially significant. A community-focused initiative is 100 creative villages, transforming community centers into hubs of cultural energy rehearsal rooms, studios, decentralizing cultural development. For major infrastructure, they propose performing arts centers, a new JCDC HQ, and the first dance hall museum and training center in Kingston, Montego Bay.
A dance hall museum, that would be something.
Indeed, these are high-cost, iconic projects that would boost cultural tourism. They also plan special economic zones for creatives, expanding the framework for music, film, fashion, with tax incentives.
So physical infrastructure for the arts and cultural industries is a big part of the JLP's vision. What about sports and youth development in that realm?
For sports, the JLP focuses on national stadium redevelopment, a historic renovation to increase capacity, add modern seating, new tech, creating a world-class sporting venue. They also propose GC Foster Sports Scholarships, offering 500 tuition scholarships annually for high school students pursuing sports careers, athletes, coaches, managers, provides direct educational and career pathways. Finally, they plan to formally introduce esports and digital athletics into national sport policy, embracing new trends, expanding youth participation.
The JLP seems to have a strong emphasis on cultural infrastructure and direct pathways in sports. What does the PNP propose for these areas?
The PNP's cultural and sports proposals are also quite robust. In culture and creative economy, they stand out with a $1 billion creative economy fund. This is to support business development, content creation, training, community-based arts. A dedicated, significant financial boost for the entire creative sector. Centralized support. They plan a creative industry park and music heritage museum in Trenchtown, honoring cultural icons, nurturing talent in a historically significant area. A highly symbolic proposal, as you noted earlier, is to confer National Hero on Robert Nesta Marley and Louise Bennett Coverley, recognizing monumental cultural contributions at the highest national level.
Yes, that hero status is powerful symbolism. What about their approach to sports governance?
Good question. For sports, the PNP proposes a standalone Ministry of Sports to provide focused leadership and funding. This is an institutional reform that elevates sports to a dedicated government portfolio, ensures focused development. They plan a national sports strategic plan in partnership with clubs and sporting associations, creating a coordinated, long-term vision. They also aim for a national sports tribunal to hear disputes and set governance standards. Professionalizing sports governance, ensuring fairness. A national program of sporting excellence will identify and nurture talent from early childhood through elite levels, a holistic talent pipeline for athletes.
Okay, expert speaker, this is a tough one. Both parties clearly cherish Jamaica's cultural and sporting achievements. Who seems to have the edge here in terms of impact and sustainability?
Yeah, this raises that important question. How do we monetize and protect our culture and develop our sporting talent sustainably? The JLP's proposals for a specific cultural infrastructure like the Dance Hall Museum and the 100 Creative Villages are very tangible, concrete, geographically distributed, promising direct physical spaces and economic activity. Their GC Foster scholarships also create a clear, direct pipeline for talent development in sports. However, the PNP's $1 billion Creative Economy Fund offers a centralized and significant financial boost across the entire sector, potentially stimulating growth more broadly, though perhaps less targeted infrastructure-wise. Their proposal to create a standalone Ministry of Sports and a national sports tribunal are important institutional reforms for long-term professional development and governance in sports. And of course, the recognition of Bob Marley and Louise Bennett Coverley as national heroes would be a powerful symbolic act, deeply resonant with national pride and cultural identity. Both show strong appreciation, definitely, But the PNP's focus on that significant financial injection and the institutional restructuring for sports gives them a very strong standing here. #tag final analysis and conclusion.
Well, we've taken a deep dive into the JLP and PNP manifestos for the 2025 Jamaican elections. We've covered everything from your payslip to public beaches and a lot in between. It's been an incredibly detailed look at their competing visions across economic management, tourism, agriculture, housing, infrastructure, education, health, justice, labor, environment, and culture. Whew.
It has been a lot. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, our nonpartisan, evidence-based analysis has highlighted distinct strengths and priorities in both manifestos. While the JLP demonstrates a commitment to continuity and fiscal discipline, maintaining existing large-scale infrastructure projects and offering some targeted tax relief, the PNP often presented proposals focused on more systemic reforms and substantial direct financial injections for vulnerable groups.
So after carefully weighing all the key proposals based on, ease of implementation, cost effectiveness, and the benefit they offer to ordinary Jamaicans, what's our final assessment? How did the tally work out, so to speak?
In our point-by-point comparison, giving a win for what seemed like the stronger, more impactful, or more distinct proposal in each category. Our analysis suggests that the People's National Party's manifesto presents a more ambitious and, in this particular framework, a stronger set of proposals overall. Their emphasis on addressing deep-seated systemic issues, their commitment to direct financial support for vulnerable groups, and those innovative pathways for economic and social mobility stood out in several categories, particularly in areas like constitutional reform, dedicated funding for seniors and persons with disabilities, and significant worker protections like tackling contract work. While the JLP's plans are often concrete and build on existing momentum, the PNP's vision in many areas offered more radical, transformative changes aimed at greater equity and long-term societal restructuring.
So what does this all mean for you, our listener, as you head to the polls on September 3rd, 2025?
Well, this raises that final important question for all Jamaicans. Beyond the promises and the campaign slogans, it's about what is truly realistic, what's affordable, and what's genuinely beneficial for your life and your family's future. Our deep dive today was designed to help you cut through that rhetoric, hopefully giving you the tools to critically assess the path each party proposes. Whether it's the cost of your electricity, the quality of your healthcare, the opportunities for your children, or the security in your community, these manifestos offer starkly different approaches, different philosophies for Jamaica's next chapter. It's now really up to you to consider which vision aligns best with your own aspirations and what you believe is truly achievable and sustainable for the nation.
Absolutely. We encourage you to dig deeper, ask tough questions, talk about it, and make an informed choice that resonates with your vision for Jamaica. Remember, your vote is your voice, and understanding these proposals is the first step to ensuring your voice is heard effectively. Thank you for joining us on the deep dive as we explored the blueprints for Jamaica's future. Keep learning, keep questioning, and stay well informed.